Before 1776, the United Nation controlled millions of acres of land in the eastern United States. Land was lost from the tribe as the colonists moved in. In 1788, the United signed a treaty sacrificing 5.3 million acres of land in the state of New York. In 1821, the United Tribe then paid the U.S. government roughly $25,000 for about 5 million acres and will become Wisconsin. And then many United Nations members relocated to that area. This is compared to $520,000 in today's currency. In 1821, a treaty on September 23rd reduced the United's land ownership in Wisconsin from 5 million to 3.9 million acres. In 1877, the Dawes Act was passed in Congress. It allocated land to individual tribe members rather than to the tribe itself. What would have been 65,000 acres to the tribe became 100 acres to 650 people. By 1924, nearly all the original reservation land in Wisconsin had been taken from tribal members by most unethical means. In 1937, the federal government bought 1,270 acres of land in the original reservation area and placed it into trust of the Oneida Nation. By 1989, the United Tribe owned only 22,000 acres, with 1,690 locked in tax-free trust. The tribe in Wisconsin currently owns over 4,600 acres, with 2,740 acres in trust. This is still only a small fraction of the original reservation land. There are actually two Oneida tribes today in the United States, one in New York and one in Wisconsin. Each of these tribes is governed by a council that is elected by its citizens.
I think they do a very good job contributing to the Green Bay area, especially by donating to the Lambeau Field and other things like that. The casinos also bring a lot of tourism to the area and other stuff like that.
I primarily, when I think of the United Nation, currently think about economic development and the role that they play in developing Green Bay's economy.
Well, I think they really try hard to contribute to the community. When I think off the top of my head, they have the golf course, Thornbury Creek Golf Course. I really enjoy playing that golf course. It's a nice facility. They've contributed to the Green Bay Packers organization by sponsoring the gate at Lambeau Field. So I think they really make an effort to contribute to the Brown County community.
I think the first thing what always comes to my mind is the understanding of what peace is.
Yeah.
You know, I think if we can have kind of like a better understanding of its origin and where it came to, and how it helps, us to become more, better human beings. If we can, bring and give an understanding of what peace is for one another, I think we have a better chance at continuing the life of the earth, I think.
Well, probably that the Oneida Tribe of Indians came from New York, and they were here long before Wisconsin was a state.
Really?
Yes, the first group of Oneidas emigrated from New York State in 1823, and Wisconsin became a state in 1848.
Yeah.
So
Different times.
we were here much before everybody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Corn, beans, and squash are known as the Three Sisters and are considered to be special gifts from the Creator. Corn has always been a staple of the traditional tribal diet because it can be dried and stored for long periods of time and prepared in various ways. Ancient Oneidans used the white corn to make corn syrup and bread and mush. Corn was harvested and dried in the fall, which would be a supplement for dried meat, nuts, and rice to support the Oneidans through the harsh winters.
Well, we were the large part of the community
Yeah.
when we were first here.
Yeah.
And it was everyone else who came from Europe to buy land in Wisconsin and buy land on Indian reservations. But we were here, and the other larger group, the dominant society, grew around us.
Yeah.
So that we were kind of absorbed into that until the tribe had very little land because of fraud, for one thing, and outright sales and that kind of thing. But now that we have better economy, the larger part of the community sees us every day. And so we need to know about them. I lived in Germany for 3 years, so I know about Germany and German people. But the people who moved here do not know about us.
Yeah.
As for yourselves,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
You want to learn about us, and the larger part of the community should also learn about
They
us.
should, yeah.
Well, your culture, as you call it, is also our culture.
It is.
So it's all melded together.
Yeah.
We can contribute a lot of things to the larger culture, and we have adapted to a lot of things from the larger culture. Like we all have modern cars,
Yeah,
of course, and we adapted to the technology. But there are certain things that our tribal people do that probably the larger culture doesn't know about.
Yeah.
For instance, our major foods are white corn, which we brought from New York, and beans and squash. Those are called the Three Sisters.
Gotcha.
And we have contributed that not only to the economy of the United States, but the economy of the world
Yeah. It's great.
with the kinds of gardening that we had. We also we didn't have fruit trees like apple trees,
Yeah.
peach trees, and pear trees and plums in New York, but they were brought to us from Europe, and we adapted them and we brought them to Wisconsin as well.
I think we need to do some work there. I think more and more as time goes on, people are getting more and more versed in diversity and trying to understand their culture. And I think part of understanding their culture is getting educated about their culture. So I think the more that we can learn about their culture through, I know they have a powwow event in fall and stuff. The more we can learn about them, the more we can understand and accept them.
I think there have been a lot of positive effects with the Oneida. They have created infrastructure for Green Bay, whether it be like specific tangible infrastructure with Lambeau Field sponsoring a gate, to creating job opportunities. I know that gambling is a controversial issue for most people, and a lot of people assume that American Indian gaming is the end all for them. It's, how they're supporting their tribes, but I think it's kind of a temporary thing that it's what tribes can do right now to earn income, and so that's what they do. So some people may consider that a negative, but really it's not. I mean, it's people are going to gamble whether it's at a casino or in my classroom. I mean,
Yeah.
if you gamble, you're
Makes
going to
sense.
gamble wherever you can find a spot.
I think it's been very, very rough because a lot of people don't understand the Oneida Nation and their customs, and they don't want to. And I think that as soon as we all find out or get together and find out, hey, that we're more alike than divisive, we should be able to all get along together. But we don't. It's just a whole bunch of individuals that don't care, but we should care because we all live in the same community.
Well, I think again, it's that relationship, giving that understanding to the surrounding communities, like with Howard and with Seymour, Freedom, and Green Bay, and Schwabenon, all of these areas, Squamico, this is, we're making more and more, relations to have understanding of, we're all the same, we're all the same. It's just that some things, beliefs, things are different sometimes, and other kinds of other things, but we're all going in the same direction,
Yep.
and so that we're striving to be good human beings.
Yeah.
That's what we have to do.
The Oneida tribe purchased and contributed the Oneida Nation gate to the Packers at the stadium.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a big pile of bucks.
Yeah, I believe it.
And then there's the Walk of Legends that we contributed to along.
Yeah, I heard that.
And the Oneida people that played in the Packers, before the Packers were even an organized team, we had our first professional football player was Tom Scanador from this tribe
Wow.
to the Packers.
That's
And
great.
we had about 4 others that also played professional ball. But they hardly ever noted that until we had money and we brought it to their attention.
Yeah.
The Oneida people lived in villages of longhouses, which were large wood-frame buildings covered with sheets of elm bark. Each longhouse was up to 100 feet long and housed an entire clan, which was up to as many as 60 people. In the summer, the Oneida Indians did use elm bark canoes for fishing trips, but they usually preferred to travel by land. Originally, the Oneida tribe used dogs as packed animals since there were no horses in North America until the colonists brought them over from Europe. In wintertime, the Oneidans used laced snowshoes and sleds to travel through the snow. The Oneida Indians were farmers, so they mainly relied on crops and hunting. Oneida Indian recipes include cornbread, soups, and stews, which they cooked on stone hearths. The Oneida hunters were often used bow and arrows. The Oneida fishermen often used spears and fishing poles. In war, Oneida men used their bows and arrows or fought with clubs, spears, and shields. The Oneidans used stone axes for woodworking, flint knives for skinning animals, and wooden hoes for farming. The Oneida tribe were known for their mass carving, which was considered as a very unique form of art. The 2 most important Oneida instruments are the drums and flutes, which are very important to their culture. The drums are often filled with water.
I think with the land itself, I think because of what had happened back in the 1920s, and when they had, well, actually it was the 1890s where they had the Dawes Allotment Act, and where it came into being, where lands were allotted to the Oneida families.
Well, we now have a farm that is 10,000 acres.
Well, yeah.
And we turn over 400 or 500 black Angus, certified black Angus every year,
Wow.
and raise the food ourselves. We also have a herd of buffalo that are probably over 200 animals right now.
That's great.
Well, in fact, we're going to be having our midwinter ceremonies
Really?
coming up next week, and that hasn't changed, I guess, since the earlier 1800s.
Yeah.
So we're, but actually, in one sense, they did change at one point because we were caught up in that Revolutionary War stuff
Yeah.
at the time. So
Mhm.
a lot of that ceremonies, kind of like was
Pause for a little bit.
paused for a while, because of that. And so after that, we started picking, getting back to things again the way they should be. And so since then, we've been still doing that. And what that entails. That part of that is sort of like renewing this year,
Mhm.
renewing the new year for upcoming life, I guess I would say.
That's great.
Renewing our own lives,
Yeah.
renewing all of the things on earth and what they provide, what the earth provides, and just sort of like it's a renewal, for this new
The
year.
traditions are mostly in our food
Yeah.
and our growing of things, but there are ceremonies.
Yeah.
And many of our ceremonies were kind of let go up until they were revitalized in about 1970.
Yeah.
And now there are quite a few people who...
Some of the issues that they still have to deal with is our racism and the fact that people do not understand their culture to the point that they need to understand.
Well, I think that, definitely dealing with the governments, it's not, unfortunately, it's all about money right now, and them being able to take care of themselves with the casinos, and everybody wants a little bit of piece of that money. And unfortunately, they're being, what's the word I want? They're being fought on giving a lot of that money to the government, which is, they should be able to take care of their own, in my opinion.
I think a lot of maybe unsupported prejudices, most likely. When I was in high school, I went to West De Pere, and we had a lot of students from Oneida Nation or just lived in Oneida who came to West De Pere. And I think there was a lot of hostility sometimes or unknowing of their culture at West De Pere. A lot of times there were comments about the money that they were being given and what they were using that money for and whether they deserved that money, quote unquote, because of what's happened in the past. So I think it's a lot of maybe unsupported prejudice that maybe we don't know a lot about or the community doesn't know a lot about, so it's just quick to maybe jump into those prejudices.
Powwows are the Native Americans' way of meeting together to dance, sing, visit, and renew old friendships and make new ones too. Powwow singers are a critical part of the powwow. The clothes worn by the dancers have evolved over time, a lively and changing way of life. The powwow begins with the grand entry. Originally a parade went through the town for the powwow. Even today in some powwows, there are still parades. Flags are carried into the powwow and generally include the United States flag, Indian summer tribal flags, the POW flag, and the eagle staffs. Native Americans hold the United States flag in an honored position, despite the horrible treatment received from the United States. Once everyone is in the area, the song ends and another song is sung to honor the flag and the veterans.
My young people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I see them, especially the way they carry themselves and being a part of a lot of our ceremonies, and where, I guess, when I was young at the time,
Yeah.
there was some of us,
Yeah.
but not as how I see it now today. When seeing the young people now, and they're really they're really going for it. Really putting themselves into having more understanding of the things that we do and the ceremonies and all that. And it's really encouraging to me.
That's good.
Seeing that our young people being a part of that, because. Like I say, when as I was growing up, there wasn't really that many. There was a lot of elders at the time, but and I'm sure, I should say, that was the same things that they said. Always having the young people being a part of everything that you do.
Yeah.
Because that's they're the ones that are going to carry on once you pass on, and that's what I see, with our younger boys, and women, too, as well. Everything's coming together.
I see in the future for the Oneida, I think as a tribe, they've had some internal strife, but right now they're trying to find the best place for them to be financially speaking. So I don't think any tribe in the state of Wisconsin is saying, we're going to bank on Indian gaming for the next 600 years. They know that it's a temporary solution to creating revenue for tribes. So right now, the Oneida have invested in various facilities throughout Green Bay, and I think they're looking to try and find the next step. I hate to think this, but at times I think some of the obstacles that they have faced have been just pre-existing stereotypes that people have about American Indians rather than having concrete criticism. So for example, the waste power plant that the Oneida proposed, it seemed like people were proposing it for nonsensical reasons. So I'm hoping that the tribe is able to get the right assistance to be able to move forward so that they can pursue other venues for financial stability.
The Oneida Nation obviously has been expanding over the last few years, especially because of the process of having the casino and the funds to do that, and furthering the education of their tribal members to the point that they're able to win cases in court and continue to expand the educational purposes of their community.
Just from my experience of being younger, I really hope that stigma is no longer associated sometimes with the Oneida Nations. I think sometimes we're very quick to talk about like the prejudice that I mentioned about when I was in high school and the casinos and those staple things that we associate with the Oneida Nation. I hope that it becomes just like Green Bay, that we can associate it with many other ideas that can draw in revenue and have a positive influence on education and politics too.
Founding
fathers, who had Benjamin Franklin, and Thomas Jefferson, Washington, and various ones of that time, Thomas Paine, all of these various historic people at the time, sort of came in and began to examine and observe, our peoples and the structures of our government, or how we did things, and how everything came to being, where that's how they framed everything to be, for their government, for it to being, and so it's beginnings. That's where it started from, and I don't think there's a lot of talk about that, during, and even in the history books, it doesn't really say anything about that, that this is who the founding fathers came to begin to establish, to structure their government after was our peoples, at that time. So just like to, throw that message out there, I guess. I think what you guys are doing,
Yeah,
that's the beginnings of it.
it is. Yeah.
Having more, more of those kind of interviews, and like from your school,
Mhm.
to be able to find that time to do that,
Yeah.
and as well as other area schools and everything like that.